Welcome to Grumpy Old Men as we look back to the good old days of AFL football. Yes, Bob?
No, it is not Grumpy Old Men this week.
It isn't, Bob?
No.
Why is that?
It's Elegant Old Men.
So it's Elegant Old Men on Grumpy Old Men this week. We have got a super show coming up, Bob. We've got a
when you
man...
hear the exploits of these two and you see them together,
Smooth, Bobby, aren't they?
smooth. Well,
Well, one has just been inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame. The other, Bobby tells us, used to wear a hairnet, a crocheted athletic support, and has gone fox hunting with Prince Charles, and is on speaking terms with Camilla, all coming up on Grumpy Old Men. So are you grumpy today, Bob?
no, how could I be grumpy with two of my... Look, in the 60s, when everything was supposed to be good, these two used to take me to Florentino's for lunch of a Friday afternoon before they played.
Was that expensive?
I don't know. I never played.
What-
I'm not sure who it was.
What about the way they were dressed? Would they get in the Footscray Social Club?
They all used to those Ugg boots. They had Ugg boots on.
Last week, Bob, at the Hall of Fame, you had to get up and induct Denis Marshall into the Australian Football Hall of Fame, and Denis Marshall is good enough to stay over and join us on Grumpy Old Men.
Oh, yeah, Dennis.
Can we just clarify one thing, Dennis? Bobby has been telling us on Grumpy Old Men every time we do the program out the back that Denis Marshall is the greatest thing that's ever happened to football. But he said he was over there and you took him down the Swan River on your own personal yacht and you looked up and Bobby said, "Where do you live, Dennis?" And you said, "I live up there." And Bob said, "That looks to be a very, very nice house, Dennis. How much is that worth?" And you said, $8 million. Is that right? Do you live in an $8 million house?
No,
I never told him that figure.
He said,
But if you want to buy it, I'm a seller.
Do you live in an $8 million house?
I live in a very expensive one.
no, it's 8.4 million. I put it up 4.4 of a million
And the other
since he's here today.
The other part of the story was that Bob said he kick-started you to have this $8.4 million house because the money he gave you to come to Geelong was put into that block of land. Is that right?
I put it into his pocket.
Yeah, when I got out of Geelong, I went back and bought a block of land and built a house. And properties have skyrocketed, so that's what's happening.
What about the other story that Bob says, that Dennis could put Gary Ablett on his shoulders and run around and still have more skill than Gary on the top of his shoulders?
I didn't exactly say
In
that.
fact, you did describe Dennis at the Hall of Fame. Bobby described him as James Hird, but with a better left foot.
That's right. James, I don't know if James has got a left leg, to be truthful. But Dennis, look, from the first time I watched him play when he beat Darryl Baldock one quarter and Kevin Murray the next quarter and then two Victorian centremen in the second half, I said, oh, how good is this? We'll just keep on going forever.
How did Bob get you to come to Geelong, Dennis?
With the very same charisma that he's got here. Now I'll get you this and you got that, not a problem. Look, just pick wherever you want to live, not a problem.
I took him up around the Eastern Beach where they're only $1.2 million home. Back in those days. And I said, just pick one of those out, Dennis. You'll be right,
That's a true story.
Yeah, because you can see he's got a bit of style about him. But you want to let him know about Wendy, about the swimming pool. That's just the best.
He loves it.
Tell us the story.
No, very quickly, he said, come down and have a look. I'll show you what we've got. You know how Bobby does all this. And so we went past this vacant piece of land and he said, this is where we're building the new swimming pool. And Wendy, you're a swimming coach. You're going to be the man and have the control of it. And then we went further around. He said, this is where you should be living, Dennis, up here. And I said, fantastic. Well, still a vacant piece of land. I ended up staying in a boarding house in Punt Road, which was Donnie Williams' dad ran it at that stage. And then I went up market, went out to Coburg and stayed in a hotel out there.
He wanted to be near Father Brosnan because he used to go out to Pentridge with Father Brosnan all the time.
I was never convicted, but I spent more time in than most footballers.
Did you find coming across with a big reputation as a superstar in Western Australian football that you were a marked man when you played AFL football?
Yeah, very much so. But, timing's everything. And I was bobbing up when I should have been bobbing down. And one time, Darky Nalder, I was playing at
Hawthorn?
At Hawthorn, at Geelong. And I went over and in WA, you've got beautiful conditions. You just paddle the ball up the front, right on the boundary line, bang, hits, whack. And I thought, "Oh." And I was just getting up to sort of think, oh, that hurt, a bit of blood. And I put my hand down to help myself up. Darky walked over and went, on your hand? Yeah, my hand. And I looked at him and I said, and he said, and that's not all you're going to get. I thought I better go back to Perth. At least I can run the show there.
This is true. In about the first 4 games that we had him playing there, we thought we would buy a singer-sewing machine. We had to put stitches in his face that often. It was fantastic, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't for Dennis.
Oh, well, I tell you, taught him also. He was one of those, he could do anything over him. He could do it here too, but, you know, the Victorians didn't like those fellas that just used to go around them and were smart, put the ball there and go over there. And if they went at him on that side, he just turned over there, kicked it with his... They didn't understand that for a while, you know. But one of the best bits was about the 4th or 5th game, I think it was, when you were playing. We were playing North Melbourne, and you talk about melees and everything like that. It's not often that you get one of your good players. In those days, the coach used to sit right on the boundary, and North Melbourne had a very enthusiastic coach called Alan Killiger, and he jumped out the box and got to the line, and Rosnell ran past him and went whack, knocked him out and said, "That'll teach you, you little hunchback little bastard." That's fair dinkum. And
Mickey Aylett come charging out, Albert Mantel. It was
all the North Melbourne tough. Instead of going up their own race, they came into our race, and there was a blue in the race, and then they went in, pushed over all the lockers.
Crystal tables, Bob.
Oh, everything.
Uprooted everything.
And Denis will tell you how he got into the rooms.
Well, John Sharrock and I were normally in front most of the time. We sidestepped all the mob and went round and got in the back door. We weren't staying there to be punched up by louts and larrikins.
So that's a real melee.
And that was about your 5th game into your career.
What am I doing here?
But you had a bit of a delay in your career, didn't you? Because when you first come over, there was a bit of a problem. I think it was 6 games before you could play.
Well,
or 6 games.
Bobby was responsible.
Oh,
for
Bobby
that.
was.
What did he do wrong?
Well, it's back to brown paper bags and money.
Oh, hang on.
And, they got an enormous sort of transfer fee.
How much was it then? How did he look after you? Did you give a figure or not?
£6,000.
Pounds.
£6,000.
That's about $500,000
in 1964.
Folded.
You folded, yeah.
1964, we were getting $20 a game in 1964.
Talking about payday, I lived in Melbourne, and the boys said it's payday. We used to get paid, and we used to get certain stuff in the proverbial brown paper bag. And it was a set day that you had to get in. And I lived in Melbourne. I worked in Croydon, and I'd get in my car and drive like you couldn't believe to get down there to beat Billy Goggin, Polly Farmer, who were all spending their money on other charitable institutions. TAB.
But that was against a law.
There was never anything for me.
A big investigation when you came over, though.
Culture law.
Yeah,
the
culture law, yeah.
They hadn't invoked it for 40 years.
No.
And that was Hayden Bunton Senior was the last one. Then
That's right.
Out of the blue, they plonked this on me, and it was hard because I was 6 games into a football season, and it was wet and slippery. Western Oval, which I think
That was the first day.
does win the
match
award
practice,
for the worst oval I've ever been on.
Too wet, just too wet.
Oh, it's just
windy.
It was like, the wind.
What was the crowd like?
It's like a mother-in-law's kiss.
I think he was playing on your wing, Doug, actually.
Yeah, the wing. The crowd good to you, Dennis? There, the doggies crowd.
I tell you who wasn't. That bloke, that EJ, Teddy Whitten.
Did he whack you?
Teddy's never stopped whacking me.
So do you reckon in your first game, Teddy would have seen you as the golden-haired boy from Western Australia, playing at Western Oval?
Let me see, what's this? Give him something that he'll remember. Yeah, well, that's...
Did you ever play in the centre for Geelong? Because a lot of people say that centre was your best position, but you played a bit at half-back, you played a bit on the wing, you played probably a bit on the half-forward line. Did you play many games actually in the centre?
I think I did. I didn't start there. At the end of the day, the moment Ian Stewart started to run right, they'd say, go and look after him.
Or Billy Barrett. I remember a couple of times you got moved on to Billy Barrett.
Terrific player. Yeah. Or when you get hold of Stewart, and he's seriously a good player, Darryl Baldock could be playing so well at centre forward, but they'd say, go down and quieten him down. They're pretty good, you know. Here you are trying to play well, and you've got Stewart and Baldock to play on at any given time.
That was a bit negative, though, if you got a superstar, Bobby. Is that why you got sacked?
Well,
Is that why you got sacked?
He was a superstar any position he wanted to play. That's, you know.
Bobby, what about the girls? I mean, he's a smooth-looking fella.
No,
His
no.
day arrived.
He brought-
Sam Newman reckons he was pretty good.
He brought one of the most
Oh,
beautiful...
do you-
Before...
But you married to
Dennis's
come over,
wa-
Dennis, were you?
Dougie, before...
No, it wasn't. I married here.
Before Elle McPherson, Dennis's wife was...
The old McPherson.
Oh, yeah.
Good looker?
Oh,
If she looks like Elle McPherson,
What do you
Well,
how do you think she's going to look?
Yeah, fair call. El McPherson's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But the 10 out of 10, the whole...
10 out
Oh,
of 10.
what?
Perhaps even 15 out of 10.
Dougie, just think of your wife and my wife and go the opposite, then, you know.
You said that, George. Well, you said that, not me.
I didn't mean it, darling, all right.
We had a lovely wedding
Yeah.
down at the bottom of Collins Street, didn't we?
Yeah, fantastic.
Fantastic. In 1964?
Yeah, 64.
Yeah, see, so he's been married, 40 years?
Well,
And, well, if you saw his wife, you wouldn't want to leave her anyway.
plus she's got the money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis, 1967, you had a chance of winning a premiership. It was against Richmond. I played in that game, 1967. It was a very close game. It was a terrific game. There was only
How'd you play, Kevin?
Best on ground, Bob.
Did he come down onto you?
No, he was playing on Billy Barrett, I think,
Oh,
and then
okay.
Billy went to full forward. I think we moved Billy to full forward. Billy used to do that quite a lot, go to full forward from the centre. But there was only like a kick in the game at the end of the game. Then you played one more year, came second in the Brownlow medal, and then went home. Why did you go home after less than 100 games with Geelong? Probably 84 games.
Well, I had a lot of friends that were a similar age group to me, and they were buying Gulfstream jets and boats and whatnot, and I'm getting paid a mere pittance at Geelong. And I thought it's time I had to go and consolidate, and which I did. I mean, I said the other night, if I regretted something, is that it was that I didn't stay and play longer in the top competition, because, you know, it was the ultimate, and I was very pleased with, you know, just being acknowledged last night that I could play.
Well, now...
How nice was that, Bob? Sorry to interrupt there, but how nice was it? Because here you are now back in Western Australia, you played 84 games of football, but it is the Australian Football Hall of Fame, a fantastic career with Claremont, best and fairest, and playing for Western Australia and Victoria. How nice was it for you last week, when we spoke to Doug about this last week, to get the letter in the mail and to open the letter up?
Yes, it's the ultimate accolade, and I think Doug would agree with me, or any bloke who's played any footy would agree. And it's not always, you know, even though there are other blokes out there that are seriously good players, sometimes they just don't get invited.
There's
Very
one
humble,
here.
aren't you, Dennis?
There's
Very
one
humble.
here.
Very over... Yeah.
There you are, Bob. You look $1 million.
I agree with you, Dennis.
This is with you inducting Denis Marshall.
It was a great night last week, and Bobby was great. I mean, Bobby spoke so well about yourself and just some of the stories. I mean, it was it's a great honour. It really was overwhelming. I felt that
Yes,
way.
it is. It was.
Now, do you want to know why he went home to Claremont?
Yes.
More
How
money.
much did you demand from Claremont per week? And how much did you get in 1969?
I asked for $1,000 a game.
$1,000 a game? Not bad, was it, Tony?
I got that at Richmond. We won the premiership for the year. $1,000 for the year.
But they said to me, you know, you can't get $1,000. You've got to coach also. I said, I don't want to coach. John O'Connell, who played for Geelong, he was a lovely man, full of great values. I said, make him the coach. All I do is play. I'll do everything he wants me to do because I've got to concentrate on business. They said, we can't pay you the $1,000. So I hung out, and I honestly hung out. And then eventually I said, righto, you make him my assistant coach. And all I did was just get him to
do all the moves.
So he virtually coached the side and you did what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and he got the $1,000.
How else can you get your way?
What was it like playing at Geelong with, say, the great Polly Farmer?
Fantastic. But
Did you know Polly back in the West well and before he came across?
Yes.
Now, you have to just, if we go back a little bit, in 61, were you the best player in the carnival?
Well,
I won't yet, but you were in it, and actually Western Australia beat Victoria in the carnival in Brisbane.
For the first time in
For the
40
first
years.
time, yeah.
It was sensational. I mean, beating the Vicks is the ultimate for West Australians.
Yeah.
And then I said, as I said last week, 1966, I went down to Hobart with the Victorian side, and that's, you know, personally, that's one of the, in a team game, that's
right.
the ultimate accolade to be picked as an outsider to play for Victoria in a carnival winning side. So a good double.
In 66, you won the best and fairest at Geelong. 68, you were second in the Brownlow to Bobby Skilton, I think it was. Wasn't it? Bobby Skilton.
Yep.
You never won the best and fairest at Geelong. Who won it that year?
68.
68.
I think Sammy won it that year.
I think he might
I
have.
was second,
Think he
I
might
think,
have.
in that. Yeah, but you know, Bobby Skilton, I mean,
Yeah, well-
I saw him the last week and I said to him, you could at least tip me in for the Brownlow.
least
He's
one
already had
Brownlow.
two. No, I should be a grumpy old bloke right now.
Well, you could. You missed out on the centre spot, but you could be on the half-forward flank. In fact, just going back to when you finished second in the Brownlow medal, just going in memory here, I reckon there was a photograph on the back page of the Herald Sun, and you may have been at Pentridge that night
Coming
giving
out
a
of
talk.
Pentridge.
Coming
Yeah.
out of Pentridge, and they had Marshall comes from Pentridge, runner-up in the Brownlow medal.
Yeah, well, I was out there with Father Brosnan, who was a great benefactor of mine in the form of making me... It was a very lonely time over here early on because I wasn't at Geelong. I lived in Elwood, or out of Coburg, actually.
That was most unusual. In those days, it was as if Geelong said you had to live down.
I
Geelong.
wasn't even his coach. He never used to come down and train.
No, well, I used to train under Noel McMahon
This is true.
at South Melbourne.
So you trained with South Melbourne and played with Geelong.
Yeah.
And he, Noel McMahon, I used to say to him, Noel, you know, he said, I'm going to talk to the boys. You go over and keep doing whatever you want to do. And I said, you know, sure, I'm not getting in the way. He said, listen, he said, you just keep running around the circle, work with us. And he said, it's to our advantage and not, you know, not to anyone's disadvantage.
So they were learning off you while you were training?
Pardon?
They were learning off you while you were training?
Yeah,
That's
it was
right.
if I
That
was.
is amazing.
I trained as if I was training with
South
Geelong.
Melbourne.
At South Melbourne.
Yeah, South
So
Melbourne.
you
Tim
would have
was
nearly
there
known
and
the
the
South
boys.
Melbourne players a lot better than the Geelong players.
Pardon?
You would have known the South Melbourne players better than the Geelong players.
Well,
Except when we played South Melbourne, and then they somehow took a dislike to it.
not only that, he had his own caravan. He didn't have to come into the rooms to get dressed or anything like that. He had his own caravan, you know.
You done caravan, Bob?
Well, we say that, but no, it really wasn't true.
What was
but-
that you were jangling before, Bob?
What was it?
What was this thing you're
Oh,
jangling?
no, well, I thought I better not bring it out.
What is it?
His
well.
best
You've been made mayor of Geelong.
his best and fairest.
Well, he's saying he won it in 66. There's mine, 1947.
47, Bob, is it?
Yeah, best and fairest.
We all right for 1947.
We all got one. We all got
Can
one.
we get that? That's a modern... Is that a... Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Isn't that
that's
fantastic?
Cargie Gree.
Kept in good nick.
Yeah, Dennis has got one now.
What, do you get it out every night and polish it up?
Yeah,
do you?
that's right. Have a look at it. Don't I
The old
remember?
polish, eh?
That was a big night down Geelong. They had the best of the best, didn't they?
Yes, they did so.
And every person who's won the Geelong Best and Fairest.
Yes, since 1897.
And who won in 1897, Bob, is a matter of interest?
I think it was
Cargie Gree.
one of the Worrells, to be truthful.
Dennis, can I ask you a question about Western Australian footballers?
Yeah.
Who was the best who never came to Melbourne that you can remember over there when you played over a long period of time?
There's a chap that's been in the Hall of Fame
He was
as a
there,
coach.
wasn't he?
John Todd was one of the seriously good players, but had a bad injury and stepped out of football very young. John Jerovich, who I can tell you could mark like Bazusto and the likes of every week.
Is that a big mark
Unbelievably
that got in
gifted player.
Subiaco as you go in the foyer there at Subiaco?
That mark,
John
yeah.
Jerovich standing on top of the pack?
He was, when I played it over there, exactly the same thing used to happen. We were a low side, and the moment John Todd was in the centre, I had to play on him. And if John Jerovich started to go mad at full forward or centre half forward, I'd have to go down and supposedly quieten him down. No way you're getting the best players. All you do is get the best stopper.
What about Stephen Michael? Remember?
Yeah.
I'm going back. Stephen Michael played at South Fremantle, I think it was.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he stayed there and
He
he
stayed
won.
there because of his family more than anything,
Yes,
didn't he?
yeah.
He was
There's no
fantastic.
doubt about
He
it.
would have made it easily.
He would have played here in the VFL and those AFL in those days. Yeah.
So do you follow the West Coast Eagles? Do you follow Geelong or do you follow Fremantle?
I'm born in Fremantle. I follow the Dockers. I played, and West Coast Eagles was the first side that started up in the Commonwealth, so I obviously got involved in that. And Geelong, I'm always supporting. But I do like just watching good players.
What business are you do now, Dennis? You made you've got a lovely house worth.
He owns the Mint.
A lovely house worth.
Mint in
A lovely house worth
Western
10.5 million.
Oh, we tweaked it up now.
What do you do now? You might be able to help me out a bit. I'm struggling with the
Do you need a new sewage system?
Yeah, don't sell septic tanks. Do you need a septic tank at the family home?
What do you do, Dennis? What do you do?
I'm involved in just
Yep.
property development is what you would designate it as. Yeah. And anything that looks like it's going to be
Where there's an urn, Dennis.
there's a way.
Do you deal in septic
Mandra's
tanks at
very-
all,
Mandra's
Dennis?
Man's is terrific.
Do you deal in septic tanks at all? Because Doug here's got quite a booming business in septic tanks.
Well, you never know.
I want to know, mate.
So let Doug call you. You won't call Doug. Is that the way it'd be?
Well, if I thought I could genuinely help him, I'll call him.
Yeah,
I'm in Perth a
If
lot.
I could. Yeah.
Mandra's nice, isn't it, Dennis? Down
It's
at
an ex-
Mandra.
yeah, terrific.
I think Rex Hunt might
Fairly.
promote that a bit of land down at Mandra. Is that Rex Hunt?
Yes, he does. Yeah, Cape Bouvard or one of those. Yeah, yeah. You know, he comes across very well too.
Do you like the modern day game?
Yeah, I love it. I just like to see an occasional melee. I think it's good for everyone, and I just do like to see it played very well. Which, by Jove, is out of 40 players, a lot of them can play. In my time, nowhere near the same percentage can play like these kids can today.
It must be tragic what's happened to Western Australian football, not the West Coast Eagles or Fremantle, but the local competition.
The WAFL.
To how great it used to be, and we know because we played against WA in State of Origin games. The WAFL now is just it's tragic, really.
When I coached, we'd get 17,000 at a home game, and then we were a good, became a good side.
You're right, Tony.
And again, last week I suggested, and it's pretty hard in front of all these talented people, but the age group across Australia should jump a couple of years, in my view, for the kids to get more matured. It would help the attendances right across Australia in the junior football or the other grades. You know, I'd want to go and see a John Todd or a John Derovich before he went to...
So they hang on to him for another couple of years so they can play at the local
You have a
level.
nominated thing, you say you've got to play 50 games, and after that you can
You can
go
do
anywhere
whatever.
you like.
Yeah, good point.
But you stay home with mum and dad a bit more.
Do your schooling.
You finish your apprenticeship, you finish your education, you still play footy, and no one's lost, in my view. And instead of this game today, coaches sacrifice you because it's their job or yours. None of it is really to what I consider the base roots of our game, of being able to encourage it to be so strong. And you know, I just think that's one little bandwagon I'm on, purely and simply because I think it'd work and work very, very well.
I suppose in the States they do that, don't they, with the boys coming out of college. They're mature, performers because they're 20, 21 years of age before they come out of the college system. Let's have a look at Dennis in action in 1967, Bob, in the grand final. Because the other night, of course, at the Hall of Fame, they showed some highlights of Dennis, and the kicking and the drop kicking, Bob, was absolutely superb. You might like. Can you recall some of these things here, Dennis, that's taking place in some of the players? Who's that taking the mark there?
The grand final.
This is 67 grand final. There's the great Francis Burke breaking a tackle.
There he is now, booting the ball forward for Richmond. Down it comes.
There's a good mark.
Barry Richardson on the mark there.
Paddy
That's-
Ganane.
that's
That on
Dennis.
the ground.
That's
It's taken
Dennis.
a long time to get up.
Paddy Ganane helped me to have a very foggy recollection of this. All I saw was a round armour coming.
It's a great mark.
It was an accident. He told
accident?
Me,
Oh,
he
he
said
told
it
me
was
to
an
pass that on to you. I said you're on great.
And afterwards he said sorry.
You are pretty groggy there.
Great curry.
Oh, here's Paul. He must have found you right out there on your own. Look at that.
The drop kick. That's a beautiful drop kick.
Oh, drop kick.
That's gone a long,
60
long way.
metres.
Tony Polinelli.
Yes,
Tony
Tony.
Polinelli.
Looking for someone further afield. Burke had a chance to mark, couldn't hold the ball.
It's Graham Bergen, who played half-back flank for the Tigers,
Bergen
along
grabbing
with
the ball,
Jeff
gets it
Strang.
out here to Northey. It bounces badly
Northey.
with him. comes towards Farman. He knocks the ball
someone
forward.
copped
It comes
it.
to Marshall. Marshall
Dennis.
a couple of opponents.
Why didn't we just tackle him, Bob?
That's right, that's right.
Where Farmer takes the mark, whips ahead
Peter
past
Walker
to Walker.
coming
Walker's
through.
got Polinelli all
It was a
over
great
the
Yes,
side, Dennis,
Sherry.
wasn't it? Some
It was
great
a very,
games in that
very
side.
good side, beaten by a better side.
Now, Polly always brings up that he thinks that Geelong was robbed of this grand final. He's got a tape. He's watched it 3,000 times.
Freddie
And that
Swift
the
marked behind the ground.
the umpire crucified the Cats. Is that your memory of the game?
No, Pol's, you know Pol. Once he's got a view, you won't change it. And, you know, as I said earlier, beaten on the day. One of the good things is you play the footy, you do your very best, and you just walk off and say, well, the side's better. I mean, you're no good bloody moaning and groaning about it. It's all happened, finished. And correct it next week if you can.
If we were to suddenly transport you to today, could you do every day's training like they do now? Would that be your business? You would say, no, I've got some other thing. I've got to go to the bank and count a few notes or something.
Well, as long as it's not on Friday and Gouldy didn't have a luncheon set up with a nice steak and a bottle of wine, yeah, I'd probably go along with it.
Well, Dennis, hopefully you can stay with us on the couch because Tony Shaw's got to go off to the bank to try and get a loan because he wants to buy a 1964 Holden down at the car yard. You might be able to actually loan him some money. So stay on the couch with us.
Now, just before we say, now I have to ask you this, Dennis. We only dream of these things. Have you crossed the Atlantic in one of the nice planes?
Well, the Concorde.
The Concorde.
Oh,
Have you-
yeah, Concord.
Yeah, it's a terrific sensation.
There we
We're all
are.
too late now. At least I've been on it. Yeah.
You own one, do you, Dennis? You own a Concord?
No, but I got a couple of friends who own serious planes, and I still get a lift. Last night I spoke to one young bloke. He's Johnny Robertson's
Yes.
lad, Tibby. He's a fantastic pilot. He said, well, why don't you stay there till Friday? Because I've got to come in for a meeting. And he said, you can come back on the jet with me. Oh, not bad, is
No,
it?
not that.
Well, Bob, stay on the couch there. You sit there, Bob.
He's going to stay.
He's not going anywhere.
Settle
Bob.
down. He's not going anywhere. We're going to get Denis Marshall to stay with us on Grumpy Old Man because Tony has to go off and count some money. Now, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a man on the couch who actually flies up front on the Concorde.